Okay, let's bring in international security expert, Dr. Huseyin Alptekin. He joins me live from Istanbul. Welcome to you, Doctor. The obvious question is, why would the YPG terrorists agree to a ceasefire and then almost immediately violate it?
For one thing, the YPG right now has no other realistic choice other than, finding some excuses to gain some extra time. And ceasefires, they give some excuse and some extra time to the YPG. But in the meantime, it's not the end result. Ceasefires, by definition, tend to be temporary until another final term, another final agreement. And in the meantime, as ceasefires give some time, some limited time to the YPG, I think they are trying to strengthen their positions. And right now, their priority is to access to the new militia and the weapons which might come beyond the Iraqi border. I think they utilized this time frame to get some extra help from the PKK camps in Iraq.
Yeah, as you said, time's limited, just 15 days. And our correspondent, Andrew Hopkins, who I just spoke to, he's told us just in the last few days that explosives were left behind and detonated by the YPG terrorists to kill the Syrian army soldiers when they took over certain depots. Again, it's not the actions of a group that is looking to make peace. Do you think renewed fighting can be avoided?
I'm very pessimistic about that. Because this is not the first time we see a deal, an agreement between the YPG and the Damascus government. There were previous deals, there were previous promises. Going back to years, but most recently in March 10, that was big news on the headlines, but nothing came after that. And most recently, this January 18 deal, again, I think it will be broken by the YPG once again. And if you look at some examples, some concrete examples, for example, what happened in the west of Euphrates, in Aleppo, in towns like Ashrafia, in towns like Sheikh Masud, and they were, under the ceasefire deal in the previous agreement, and the YPG was supposed to get rid of its heavy arms in these regions, but rather they stockpiled drones, they stockpiled rockets, and they stockpiled mortar shells there, and they also didn't hesitate to use them. And now in the east of Euphrates, I think they have more ground and they have a more direct linkage to Iraq, especially from Hasakeh and Iraq using the cross-border areas. And I think they will just wait for the right time to hit back. And nowadays we see the news about drone attacks and some executions in the YPG held territories. And unfortunately, I see no bright light. I think, again, we will hear the noise of arms once again.
One of the reasons for this 15-day ceasefire was for the United States to transfer Daesh prisoners to Iraq. Why was it felt important to do that? And do you see any risks, consequences that could come with it?
It was important because the entire reason for the American presence in Syria was to fight ISIS, Daesh. And by, not managing their transfer to a safe area in Iraq or somewhere else, then America would lead to some questions about the legitimacy of its existence, its presence in Syria. And I think they can pull off only after handling this transfer matter. So this is important for America because this was the main rhetoric behind American intervention. Are there risks? Of course, there are risks. But I think what we saw over the past few weeks, I think it makes easier to fight Daesh. It makes easier to hold the ground against Daesh. Because there are two complications when we had this, YPG rule in eastern areas. One complication was about local intelligence, the human intelligence, which was very essential to fight Daesh. But the YPG, they had their own problems with Arab tribes in Deir ez-Zor, in Raqqa, and they were not connected to them. But with the central government's presence in those areas, I think they can have better access to the human intelligence on the ground. That was the first complication. And the second complication is Daesh is well known for manipulating the cleavages between different factions. So the areas of, the different multipolar internal actors, I think that was very essential for Daesh survival. But once we have the central government to restate its sovereignty in the entire nation, then there is no space for the Daesh to manipulate, to play one actor against the other one. So I think that is more promising on that ground in the fight against Daesh.
Dr. Alptekin, thanks so much for coming on, giving us the benefit of your expertise. My guest, the international security expert, Dr. Huseyin Alptekin.